Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Philbert D, and I'm a very tired person. This is Phil on Films. This week, we're covering Last Fool Show, Missing Link, and we're doing a rundown of the Sinag Maynila films.
Nagmamakaawa ako, Lord. Tulungan niyo po ako makaisip ng kwento, Lord.
Maye, played by R.C. Munoz, is an award-winning director trying her hand at making a big studio film. She's tasked with making a rom-com, and she decides to use her own life as inspiration. In the process of making her film, we see scenes of her romance with Paolo, played by J.M. de Guzman, who she meets while trying to deal with her boyfriend cheating on her. I'm not entirely convinced of the value of that extra layer of storytelling. I'm generally skeptical of movies about making movies, as they tend to be so much about the personal angst of filmmakers, and that's just not as interesting as filmmakers seem to think it is. Having said that, the movie does keep a lot of that stuff in the background.
What if ilusyon lang pala ang lahat? Cut! What if kwento pala namin to ng gagong ex ko? Alam mo nga bang ginagawa ko tong pelikula? Mas naalala ko yung sa amin ni Paolo.
It keeps the focus on the story of two people getting to know each other under these very strange circumstances. The story doesn't entirely add up, but the charming leads make up for a lot of it. There's a roughness to R.C. Munoz that's really endearing.
Pwede ba tayong mag-usap?
Hindi, ayoko.
And J.M. de Guzman just does a lot with the twitch of his mouth. I think it's smart overall. To be honest, I just saw this movie like an hour ago, and I'm still processing it, but I'm really willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. There's this thing about this movie where it feels like it's trying to justify its own use of mainstream rom-com convention. And that feels like it should be a bad thing, but it adds a tension to the film that creates a little bit of spice to all the stuff that we've seen before. 3.5 stars.
Last Fool Show!
Legend tells of a lost species, a link between man and beast. For centuries, he's lived in hiding, but at long last, he's reaching out and ready to be found.
It's still there. Excuse me. Hi. You can speak.
Hugh Jackman provides a voice for Lionel Frost, a wannabe adventurer seeking validation by finding proof of the existence of the Sasquatch. Amazingly, he manages to find a monster, but it turns out to be a sentient creature voiced by Zach Galifianakis. Frost agrees to help the Sasquatch find more of his kind, leading him to a trip to the Himalayas while dodging pursuers trying to discredit the discovery. First things first, if you're into stop-motion animation, you should just go out and see this film already. It's from the studio Laika, and like all of their previous works, it's an amazing feat. There's an absurd level of craft visible in even the silliest of scenes. Stick around during the credits to see the meticulous process that goes into producing a sequence that lasts for seconds on screen. It's genuinely awe-inspiring.
Please do not, whatever you do, mention the chicken.
Of course not.
We understand.
No chicken, got it. Zip. What's with the chicken?
It's a silly movie overall, but it does manage to sneak in some surprisingly progressive views. Somehow, this movie that's about an 8-foot hairy monster badly disguised in Victorian garb feels strikingly relevant. It does get weirdly violent, especially for a G-rated film, but apart from that, there's just a whole lot to like. 4 stars.
Throw me out of the pit.
I think it might be a little too heavy.
Nonsense. Now, give it all you've got.
Oh, it's hard to know whose fault that was. Let's do it again.
So I wish I could give full reviews to all these films, but that would be an irresponsible use of time. I will say overall, I found the festival kind of underwhelming. I don't think we saw anything that we haven't really seen before. I will say though that my favorite was Joselito Altarejos' Gino Tamari, which is a story of 2 sex workers who are hired to shoot a porno film in the provinces. I can understand if people don't like this film. It's, you know, there's a lot of nudity and it gets weird, and it's probably too slight to handle what it eventually turns out to be about. but it has ambition and it looks nice, and I don't know, I'm generally more okay with seeing sex than violence in movies, and yeah, sex is good. Also pretty good is Akin ang Corona by Zig Dulay. It's a story of a young man who gets caught up in a TV production, trying to tell his story, human interest stuff. A lot of this stuff was covered in the movie Jay by Francis Pachon, and it isn't really better, but it's also still very interesting and it's well acted, and there's a lot of fun little insight there. So yeah, check that out. And it gets worse from here. I think people will generally be okay with Pailalim, which feels like it comes straight out of the school of found story. It's one of those films where they stick to one location and they follow this underground kind of economy. It's about people who steal corpses and stuff like that. And you know, it's interesting, it's well shot, it's a good subject, but like a lot of the weaker found story movies, it doesn't really go anywhere. It feels like the product of a lot of research that doesn't come up with any interesting conclusions. Ralston Jover's Persons of Interest is weird, and I don't know what to say about it. It's kind of a procedural. The story is someone was poisoned and a blind man gets blamed for it, and it's vaguely interesting in a kind of, oh, this is how the justice system in the Philippines works, but also the eventual answer is so baffling that you just come out of the theater going, what was that? Lastly, we have Jesusa, which stars Sylvia Sanchez as a poor massage therapist who gets hooked on shabu, and it's a film where, you know, you find out that it's bad to do shabu. It's a poverty porn anti-drug PSA that, boy, has absolutely no new insight into the subject. I felt worse as a person having come out and seen that movie. It's terrible. Anyway, that's Sinag Maynila. So thanks for joining us. I was gonna try to review Stranded, but I wasn't able to get to a screening. So sorry, Arjotai fans. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, do all the internet things, and until next time, goodbye internet. Show us your tattoo!
Rolling. That's just top of your head?
Yeah.
You should do this more. Okay.
Shit, I forget his name. I forgot the name of the director. That's bad. So much about the personal angst of filmmakers, and that's just not as interesting as filmmakers seem to think it is.